We're so pleased to have Marcia Griffin.
It is my pleasure to be here. It is wonderful to see you.
Look, let's go back to your beginnings.
Yes.
Louisiana. Tell us about your family upbringing.
I was born in New Orleans. And, you know, my father's from Mississippi and my mother's from New Orleans. They went to Southern University. In New Orleans, though, my parents were very focused on what Black people needed to do to better ourselves, education being number one. So I was in New Orleans until I was 10 years old, and then we moved to Nigeria. The experience been of being out of the country, seeing poverty first.
You were in Lagos.
In Lagos, and Ibadan. In fact, I went to school in Ibadan, but largely in Lagos.
Father worked for the Agency for International Development.
AID.
AID.
Yes, he was the director of AID.
So you find yourself growing up in Nigeria, going to school, and that gives you a perspective. You're seeing poverty, but your focus is on wealth building. Tell us about what is the intersection? How do you move from what you experienced to now working in wealth building?
I use myself as a perfect example. After living in Nigeria and seeing how people so struggled. I mean, that's the case here in the United States, quite frankly. You don't have to go to Africa for that. But seeing how people struggled. And then I came back, I went to Fisk University in Nashville, and Black people have always had a struggle. But at the end of the day, you know, when we talk about survival, we have to have money. Money has to be at least on the table somewhere in order for us to do well. So Jim, my husband, was in the mortgage business. We happened to be at a conference, and at this conference, these guys, all very high-end bankers, heads of mortgage companies and private equity firms, they said, look, you know one thing? We have got to generate more mortgage business. And at that point, this was 20 years ago, the prime target were African Americans. And their thought was, they said, we've been studying this for a year. We're going to go to the jails to get African Americans interested in homeownership. And I'm thinking, oh no, something is wrong with this picture. People with all this money, all this intelligence, they're just disconnected. They don't understand that there are people just like me, teachers, people, people who are employed, who want homeownership, who want to do better, who want to understand how to, make more money and to do better. And sure enough.
So that's how you became the founder of HomeFree-USA.
That's right.
Which is a 501c3?
Yes, it is. It's based in DC, but I have 58 other nonprofit partners around the country. So that provides scale to lenders and clients and everyone that we're dealing with. The good thing, too, with HomeFree-USA, our focus is on homeownership. Our focus is on financial education, housing development, and services for the government. So we are very focused on elevating the financial stature of people across this country, but we're working together to bring power to the people, so to say.
You know, there are a lot of different studies, depending on who you listen to in the media. Some say there's an incline, some say there's a decline. What is the truth from your vantage point about home ownership in Black America, but home ownership in all of America?
The reality is people want to do better. There are many, many more people who want to own than want to rent. And this is 100% justified. The reality is it is becoming more and more and more difficult now to buy. Number one, the prices of homes across the board have increased. People are paying so much for rent that they can barely save for the down payment. So the down payment is so vitally necessary for people to buy. We need to have guidance on our credit issues and on our finances. I mean, there's just so many issues out here that people are just not aware of as far as credit. People need guidance, and they don't need to be told, look, pay every bill every month, because the average person just cannot do that. But the reality is that we also need a little motivation, particularly for people of color, because we hear nothing about but the negatives. That's number one. And there are too many denials. This is a huge issue in the mortgage industry where you decide that you want to buy a home, you just up and go to a realtor. You don't know what your credit score is. You don't really want to look at your credit score because that's just stressing you out anyway. You go to a realtor and hope and pray that you're going to be able to buy. And you know, the reality is everyone has errors on their credit reports. Everyone really, there are things about your credit report and increasing your credit score that the average person just doesn't even know.
In order for you to do what you do so effectively, how do you collaborate with the banking community, with the financial services community?
None of us, including HomeFree USA, as good as we are, can do it alone. We are very grateful for relationships with companies like Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo is a giant. Wells Fargo is in every community across this country. And together, we have to really join arms and go into the community. We do our work, meaning that we get people prepared. Now, this is a really important piece. As we talk about housing supply, as we talk about housing affordability, it is imperative that we today get people prepared. Look at the credit report. This is what we do. Look at your credit score. Figure out what you're going to do in order to get and how you're going to get up to a high 600. This is what we work with Wells Fargo. They fund us, they partner with us, and so when our people go to a Wells Fargo or any other bank, 96% of every person that has been prepared by HomeFree USA gets approved the first time.
Some people have owned their homes for years, all of a sudden now find themselves questioning whether or not they can keep the home.
Yes.
How has the banking community helped HomeFreeUSA.org help current homeowners so they can continue to keep their home?
The Wells Fargo Foundation in particular has been extraordinarily helpful to us and to our nonprofit leaders across the country. Where homeowners are concerned, there are modifications. There are where we work directly between the homeowner and the servicer, like a Wells Fargo or any of the other mortgage servicers, to bring them together, to make sure that the servicer understands what's happening with the borrower, and make sure that the borrower is able to communicate through us about their situation.
So you have an annual conference.
Yes.
And I think the theme is raising millions.
Reaching millions. Wells Fargo is one of our premier sponsors for the conference, but we're bringing all of our nonprofit small business leaders, our homeownership advisors from around the country to this conference, along with our major lending institutions. We have to come together. We have to work together because these banks want to get into these communities. The communities, these are their customers. Nonprofit organizations, we can influence the thinking. We can help the people, and we can bring both parties together.
Marcia Griffin, what gives you today your greatest hope?
My greatest hope is that things will always be better. People want to do well. We're going to work together. We're going to I really honestly feel we're on the move up, and bringing together the business community, the people community, the nonprofit communities. Oh my God, that's a winning combination.